Hello, my name is Jackson Crawford, and today we're going to talk about the growth, maturity, and decline of the infamous, drumroll, Victoria's Secret. Victoria's Secret is a lingerie company that was founded in the 1970s by a man named Roy Raymond. Roy wanted to create a store in which men could feel comfortable going there and buying stuff for their wife, their spouse. He created this masculine image. It was everything that was very lacy and dark. And he did put up some good sales. I mean, he was their annual revenue was $4 to $6 million. However, they were still bankrupt. The company wasn't doing great. And in the 1980s, it was bought by Leslie Wexler, who, if you don't know who that is, neither did I until this project. He is the owner of L Brands. And L Brands owns some really popular clothing companies, including Abercrombie & Fitch, which is not popular. Forget what I just said. And Henry Bendel, which is a handbag company. But he did buy the company
for $1 million.
From there, Victoria's Secret, it definitely grew. In the 1990s, they rose to prominence. It was a household brand. People knew what it was. They had rebranded what originally was meant to be. It was more geared towards women now instead of men buying lingerie for women. It was women buying lingerie for themselves to please their spouse, significant other, etc. By the 1990s, Victoria's Secret was the leading seller in the US of lingerie with $1 billion in sales and 350 stores worldwide.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend, and she is the moment.
In the 1990s, they were featuring more lacy, sexy, garter belts, corsetry, things that were really appealing and eye-catching. They did a lot of ads that were very featured very scantily clad women that were very scandalous. Ed Razek, the CMO of L Brands, was the founder and marketer of the Victoria's Secret fashion show, which was launched in 1996. It featured a lot of really famous models, including Naomi Campbell, Giselle, Tyra Banks. The list goes on, but it became widely successful in 1999. That was their first major online launch, and they had 1.5 million watchers. So it was a huge deal at the time. Victoria's Secret was really thriving off of this idea of creating an experience for their customers through their brick and mortar stores. They put their stores in every single mall you could think of in America possible. So it was always there. It's always for people to come in, buy stuff, try stuff on. I remember myself in high school going with a friend to a Victoria's Secret in San Francisco, and it was packed to the brim. They had to have a limit on how many people could come in. But that kind of marketing, it really did them well. However, I think now things are more towards e-commerce and less dependent on brick and mortar sales. So in 2010, there was a drop in decline in their sales, yet it was still $5 billion. So they're still leading the lingerie industry as a whole at this point. I remember in 2006, every 1 in 3 purchases of any lingerie would be coming from Victoria's Secret. So they were just by far dominating, destroying any other competing company. However, as in recently, they just have been declining in their sales, and they really were peaking in 2015 and 16. And that was due to a lot of controversies that were happening.
Annual fashion show does not include transgender or plus-size models.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
During an interview for Vogue, Razek used the word transsexual, which is deemed outdated and offensive, and said that trans and plus-size women do not exemplify the fantasy the Victoria's Secret is trying to sell.
When you finally do get exposed, you better have something to show.
The exec also revealed that he and the VS team have previously thought of casting trans and plus-size models, but ultimately decided against doing so. Razek said, in part, "We market to who we sell to, and we don't market to the whole world. We attempted to do a television special for plus sizes in 2000. No one had any interest in it. Still don't."
If you're thinking about this from a marketing standpoint, you want to include as many segmentations as possible. And if your industry hasn't been doing great in sales, then it's time to broaden. It's time to remarket, re-segment yourself so that you are more appealing to people as a whole. And that is something that Victoria's Secret just wasn't doing.
Read, honey. not read. There's a difference.
The fashion wasn't selling. It was too stuck in the 2000s and 90s era, and their morals were not really up to code. Now, when they did cast people that were of different shapes and sizes, it just did not come off as genuine. It seemed like they were doing it because they had to do it and not because they wanted to do it. If we're looking at brands that are more inclusive, including American Eagle, Fenty, the lingerie line, it's more genuine, it's more organic, the message that's coming across, whereas Victoria's Secret, they're just way too behind on the curve. And that is also what really spiked down their views in the fashion show. The one in 2018, it only had 3 million views in comparison to other years where it had 9 to 12 million views. Especially now with social media, any company can become popular with the right amount of marketing and with the right amount of social media presence. Now more than ever, there's as many competitors as there's ever been, and new ones are being created on the daily. I've talked about Fenty. In addition, there's companies such as Target, Amazon that do really well in their e-commerce and that don't have to have brick and mortar stores in order to be successful, rather use their online retail experience as their means to sell to the consumer. And that is a really effective way of doing business now. And another area where they were really lacking was their products. They didn't really have too wide of a differentiation between different segments. They didn't have a fully developed athleisure line, which is something that's in super high demand. And there wasn't the swimsuit line. When they were making those things, they were too late to the party. Where Victoria's Secret really lost their monopoly power, or just their retail power in general, was when they weren't rebranding their company. Every 5 to 10 years, like, think about it, trends change, media changes, technology changes. If you are not consistent with the times, and not only just creating products, I think it's more or less products and more so just marketing to your consumer in a way that's consistent with today's values and messages, you're going to get lost. It doesn't matter what company you are, as big as Victoria's Secret, as big as Gucci, as big as Dolce & Gabbana. If you have enough controversies and you aren't delivering, people are going to stop buying. And that is one thing about the fashion industry that's really hard. You have to be on top of trends. You have to constantly be reinventing your brand image, yet staying true to the message, but also adapting and changing with time. And that is something that Victoria's Secret just wouldn't do. They were too stuck in the past and they were too stubborn and not willing to change.
Okay, and that's on period.
Thank you for watching my video. This was definitely an interesting topic to cover. And we'll see who'll be the leading retailer and seller in lingerie in the future.